Hello and welcome to a special episode of my podcast all about knitting and crochet in my yarn shop here in Wiesbaden, Germany. I'm Kiko and today is September 5th, 2022. But this video is not going to go live until next week, so that you will have a video even though I'm on holiday. And today I want to talk about things that I knit for my husband and my son that I haven't shown on the video before. And through the years, I've knit quite a lot of things for my son. A lot of those we don't have anymore, but the ones that I still have, I want to show you. I've never knit a lot for my husband because he never needed things as much. And I'll only show you the two pullovers that I knit for him. But I'll start with my son's things and I'll start with the oldest things and I'll tell you the story behind them and why I still have them. So the first hat I'm going to show you is this rather Christmassy looking hat. And I knit that because one year when he was still a child in elementary school, he wanted an advent calendar for some special Lego things that he was collecting. They called Bionicles, and he still collects them today. So he still likes them a lot. And there was no such calendar available at the time, I think. And even if there was, I couldn't have afforded it. So I made one myself. I just tried to draw those figures and some things on a piece of cardboard, and I glued it together to make a round box, and I put all the presents inside. And as a top for that advent calendar, instead of making a lid or something, I just knit this hat and I put this over the box just as something to close the thing on top. And then I was quite surprised that my son started wearing the hat. He thought it was rather funny. So during December, he was running around with this hat and he enjoyed it a lot. But then when January came around, he said he didn't want to wear this anymore because it looked so much like Christmas, and he would like another hat like this, but in different colors. So I bought other colors, green and black, and I made this hat for him. And to be honest, I'm not quite sure why he keeps them. Whether it's just the memory, because I'm pretty sure he doesn't wear them anymore. But for some reason he's kept them and he's held on to them, and I'm quite happy so that I could show them to you. So they're really simple and nothing special, and they would never. So the red one I never thought he would wear, but then I made the green one just for him to have another hat that doesn't look as much like Christmas. And then the next oldest thing that I have is a scarf, and again it's green and black. So those were colors that he used to like back then. And this was the first time that I did shadow knitting. So if you look at the scarf from the front, you can see there's something going on, but you can't really clearly tell. The back is just, it looks like reverse stockinette. And again, you can sort of see the pattern, but not very clearly. And the middle of the scarf is just with no pattern, it's just the stripes. And then both ends of the scarf have the pattern. And the interesting thing about that is I don't even know where I got the pattern, but the pattern is I'm not quite sure I can show you, but it's supposed to be the dark mark from Harry Potter. And when I knit that for him, he was still going to school, and I think he wasn't quite sure whether it was okay to have something like this on his scarf. But because nobody could see it just looking at the scarf, but he could see it looking down the scarf, that was a lot of fun for him. I don't think I can show you the pattern. I thought if I held it like this, you should be able to see it. I think you can see that there is a pattern. It's just really hard to tell what it is. I'll try the other side again. This is probably upside down. Okay, let's try this way. Maybe I should have washed and blocked it again. Well, I guess you can see that there is a pattern, and you just have to take my word for it that it's the dark mark. Well, maybe you can sort of see it. Anyway, I'm really happy that he's holding on to this, even though I'm pretty sure he's not wearing this either. But that's that. Okay, and then the rest of the stuff that is here still fits him. Some of the things he wears a lot, some he doesn't. So I think I made him try on these house shoes. Again, these are knitted and then felted in the washing machine. And I think there was a time when he wore them a lot, but he stopped wearing them because he's not cold anymore. He never gets cold feet. So he says he doesn't need them anymore, but he's kept them, and maybe one day he will wear them again. I don't know, but it's, yeah, I think it's good that he keeps them in case he wants to wear them again, and he hasn't got any holes in them yet. I used to knit and felt shoes like this for myself for a while, but for me, because I wear them all the time, I could only ever wear them for one winter, and then I would have got holes in them. And yeah, I know I could have mended them, but I knew I was going to make new holes just by using them. So now I usually wear socks out of sock yarn, and if possible, I make house shoes with 2 or 3 strands held together, and I find that a lot more durable than the felted socks or shoes. And then the only pair of socks that he has at the moment are these. They are mainly black, but they have these white dots, and the dyer who make them, they call these the snowflake edition, so you can get different colors with the white dots, and they only start selling them after it has snowed for the first time in winter. So they never sell this yarn in summer, but after it snowed once, they start selling it until the end of winter. I don't know when they stop selling it, probably when they sold out, and they probably dye it again during the summer, I don't know. But these are his snowflake socks. So again, they get very little use. But now to the things that he wears a lot more, and that's, where's the hat? Okay, I'll start with the wrist warmers because, oh, I've got the hat. He likes to wear wrist warmers a lot, especially when he's sitting either at the computer or when we sit at the table and play games or something. But he likes to put his hands down on the table, and he doesn't like it if that's cold. So he specifically asked me to knit him wrist warmers, and this was a yarn that I wanted to knit something for myself. I've never done that, but I knit those 2 pairs of wrist warmers for him that he's used a lot. Then I gave him this pair. I don't think I especially knit them for him, but this is a pattern. This is, I think I made a video how to knit this pattern, and I've always wanted to write it down. I don't think I ever have. But I knit quite a few pairs of those wrist warmers, some longer, some shorter, and then several pairs in black, and he liked this pair, so I gave that to him. And then he wanted a pair that was longer, and he had specific wishes how he wanted them to look, and this is what I made. So the main part is just a rib pattern, and then the ends are knit in a broken rib pattern. So it's 2 rounds knit stitches, and then 2 rounds to knit 2 pearls, and then one rib is longer than the other. And yeah, he likes them a lot. He wears them a lot. He actually wore them so much that they sort of lost their elasticity. So I think last year I put in some elastic in this end, and also at the smallest part here. And I think that was exactly what he wanted. So it's a bit tighter around the wrist and a bit tighter up here. And yeah, so I know these get worn a lot. And then there was a time when I knit this kind of gloves a lot, This is a pattern from a pattern book that I inherited from my grandmother, and it was published in 1905. And so it's a pair of fingerless mitts in this rib pattern that I knit for several people, and I showed them to him and he wanted them as well. But he had, again, specific wishes. He usually knows what he likes and what he doesn't like. So he wanted those two fingers as complete fingers, and then the other two and the thumb open. And I did that for both hands. So it means that these fingers are always warm, but these are still able to hold things and do things. And I think that was a very clever idea. And yeah, the only complaint he has is that, again, it's not quite as elastic as he wanted. I think I used the alpaca sock yarn, and I think that's the reason it's not quite as elastic. But I think it's warmer and it's softer than the the sheep sock yarn. But maybe I'll have to knit another pair in that yarn just to give them more, to make them a bit tighter. Or maybe I have to use smaller needles. I don't know. But I know he loves these gloves, and once it gets cold, he's going to wear them a lot. He also wears this hat a lot. I think this was knit out of Baby Alpaca by Hansa Farm. It's just a simple knit to purl to pattern. And I know I knit several, or I re-knit the beginning at least once to get the perfect length. It's really difficult to hit this spot where it's exactly long enough and not too short and not too long. And he didn't want to fold it over, so we had to work out what the perfect length for him was. So that's that. And I think his favorite piece is this scarf. I knit that for him before he went to Sweden for half a year, and it's knit in the brioche pattern, and I used merino yarn. I used the pure merino yarn by Hansa Farm. So it's a bit less fuzzy. The hat's more fuzzy, and I thought for wearing around the neck and under your face and underneath your nose, it's nice to have a bit, have less of the fuzz. And yeah, so it's just very simple. I think something around 50 stitches, and then I knit brioche. And because sometimes the edge of brioche can look a bit strange, I didn't knit it on I-cord on both ends. I was really, really happy with this scarf. I knit it again with in a different color for myself, but I don't wear it that often because I always wear shawls and stuff and loops and lots of different things. But he always wears this scarf. As soon as it gets cold, he wears this all the time. And I remember after we visited him in Sweden, I brought him the jumper I'm going to show you, and the socks and the scarf. He already had the hat, I think. And he said, "Oh, thank you, quite nice." But then twice he wrote to me afterwards, "By the way, the scarf is fantastic. I love it." So I was really happy to hear that. So that's a scarf. And the pullover I knit for him is the Flax Pullover by Tin Can Knits. And I love Tin Can Knits. I love the fact that they do free patterns, and that it's okay to use their patterns for teaching, because that's what I do in my shop. I teach knitting and crochet, and I love to use their patterns. So I'd knit the Flax Pullover before, and I knew that the original flax didn't have short rows, so the front and the back would be the same, but I knew that my son wouldn't like that, so I added short rows. And I think last year, maybe 2 years ago, Tin Can Knits also created a short row pattern for the Flax Pullover that you can incorporate into your Flax Pullover, but you don't have to. So I think that's really nice, and depending on what kind of fit you like and whether you want, or whether you just want a very simple pullover, you can choose what you want to do. And then the typical thing for the Flax Pullover is that you have this garter panel down the sleeve, and otherwise it's just a stockinette pullover. And the ones that I made for myself are always in colorful yarn, so it doesn't get boring. But my son prefers the boring knits. He will wear any color as long as it's black. So the green things are the old things. And all the things that he wears at the moment are very, is it monochrome? So I keep saying it's proof of my love for him that I knit him so many black things. Yeah, so these are the knit things that my son owns, and some of them wears that I've made for him. Oh, one more pullover. Almost forgot about that. Again, this is an old pullover, as you can tell by the color. And the pattern for this pullover was designed by my sister. And she knit pullovers like this for her whole family. So she herself, I think, in all of those pullovers have black as the main color, and then a different contrast color. So for my son, I chose green. And I think she had one for herself that was purple, and her husband had one with black and gray. And then the oldest son had orange, I think, and I think the little one blue. I don't remember. I don't think I ever knit one for myself. But yesterday when I found this pullover, just for fun, I put it on and I realized it fits me perfectly. The sleeves have the exact right length, and I thought it would be too tight, but it's not. It's fairly close fitting, but it's not too tight. And yeah, basically it's my sister's family pullover, but I was allowed to knit one for my son as he's part of the family as well. And I kept it. I think I've tried to give it to my cousin's children, but they weren't interested, or they were too small, I don't know. So I still have it, and maybe this winter I'll wear it. Yeah, so now that's my son's stuff, and now on to my husband. As I said, he has 2 hats that I knit him, but I think I showed them in the hat special, and the same for his socks. I think I was already podcasting when I knit those socks, so I should have shown them before, but I've definitely never shown his pullovers. And I knit those long before I had the shop. And the first I even knit before I started working with Wollerödel, so before I started working with yarn. And it was within the first year after we met. And I asked him what he wanted for Christmas, and he said I could knit him a pullover because I was knitting a lot, not as much as today, but a lot. So I went and picked up a magazine that I wanted to find. I forgot about it, but it's a German one anyway. And it's one with just men's pullover. And I looked through it and I found a pullover that I liked. It was knit mainly in rib pattern, knit to purl to rib pattern, with just a few cables thrown in. And the yarn that they used in the magazine is exactly the yarn that I used. It's this blue-gray yarn that I thought looked really very nice, and I was sure that the colors would suit my husband, who wasn't my husband then, he was my boyfriend then. So when I asked in the shop, they had the yarn there, so I bought the magazine and the yarn, and I knit the pullover without asking him, and he really liked it, and it fits him. The only problem is it's too warm, so it never gets cold enough for him to actually wear this pullover. Here you can see the cables that are just thrown in every now and then. Yeah, so I think he's maybe worn the pullover 2 or 3 times when it was really, really cold and we went outside. But yeah, it's such a nice pullover. It's a really nice yarn, but too warm for him. So the next year, I don't know if it was the next year or 2 years later, he said I could knit him another pullover, just one that wasn't quite as warm. So I gave him the magazine that I'd bought, and he picked out a pullover that was knit out of really thick yarn. But I said, okay, I can knit the same like stripes and colors and everything, and I'll just use a different yarn. And I knit this pullover. And this was knit using the Sienna yarn. It's a Wollerödel yarn. That's a pure merino yarn. I think it's DK weight. so it's thinner than the other pullover. It took forever. It wasn't finished on Christmas. I think I was still knitting on it New Year's, and I finished it sometime in January. But this is the kind of stripes that the pattern had, that he liked. And I think the pattern said to knit in pieces, but I certainly knit everything in the round and then put all the stitches on one needle. I remember I had more than 400 stitches, I think. And then I knit this Sada turtleneck. At that point, I hadn't known that for most men, whether they shave or whether or not, the yarn will always get, how you say, so even if they don't have a beard, they have the hairs sort of start growing, and it's not good for the yarn. So I think the next pullover, if I ever knit another pullover for him, it will not have this kind of turtleneck, and it will probably have to be even lighter, because even that pullover is too warm for him. So I've been thinking of knitting a sock yarn pullover, which will only have 75% yarn and will be even thinner than this, and I can use a fairly big needle so that it's a loose knit. He always tells me I don't have to do that, and I think it would be a lot of work to knit such a big jumper for such a tall man. So I haven't done it yet. Maybe one day I will. Yeah, but those were the things that I wanted to show you that you haven't seen before on my videos, and I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!